Have you ever wondered why some of the most legendary motorcycles ever built just vanished? One day, dominating the streets. The next, erased from dealership floors. One manufacturer built a superbike so fast, their own CEO declared it too dangerous for public roads and pulled the plug. Another spent millions building a V-twin purely to humiliate a rival, then binned it the moment they won. Today we count down 15 iconic motorcycles the industry killed, and we expose the real reason every single one of them died. Let us begin. Kicking off the countdown at number 15, Harley-Davidson Iron 8, 83, 2009 to 2022. Let us start with the motorcycle that put more first-time riders on a Harley than any marketing campaign or celebrity endorsement in the brand's history. The Iron 883 was not trying to be complicated. Blacked out air-cooled cylinder heads on the part pointer, no touring luggage mounts, no pretension, and an 883 cubic centimeters air-cooled Evolution V-twin that every independent Harley mechanic in the country could diagnose with their eyes closed. The Evolution engine was old school, simple, and characterful. It was also deeply understood by the community that owned these bikes. Parts were everywhere, independent mechanics knew them cold, and a basic service was something any capable rider could handle in a driveway. According to European emissions regulators, not acceptable by any standard. The air-cooled design could not meet Euro 5 without a fundamental redesign that Harley had no interest in funding for this platform. So they axed it. No final edition, no respectful send-off. They pointed buyers toward the new liquid-cooled Revolution Max platform, more complex, more expensive, and viewed by the traditional faithful with a kind of open suspicion they normally reserve for people who show up to rallies on a metric bike. On the used market, you are looking at $5,000 to $8,000. The emissions outcome was inevitable. Killing it without a spiritual successor was not. The Iron was the gateway into Harley ownership for an entire generation, and that gateway is gone. The Iron died by regulatory paperwork. The bike coming up next was killed by something far more dramatic. Arriving at number 14, Honda CBR 1100XX Super Blackbird, 1996 to 2007. Honda built the CBR 1100X with one goal: to be the fastest production motorcycle on Earth. Not the fastest at a price point, the fastest, full stop. The ultra-smooth aerodynamic fairing, the part pointer, was shaped without a single sharp edge, designed entirely to slice through air at speeds that previously belonged to aircraft on final approach. 1,137 cubic centimeters, inline 4, 178 miles per hour on a factory stock machine. Then the Suzuki Hayabusa turned up and made it look slow. Then the ZX-14. European politicians started making threatening noises about legislation. The Gentleman's Agreement, an informal cap between manufacturers at 186 miles per hour, killed the top speed race as a marketing tool, which killed the entire reason the Blackbird existed. Pick one up for $3,500 to $6,000, a highway missile for staggeringly cheap money. Honda read the room before the room got uncomfortable. That is a smart exit. Honda walked away on their own terms. A certain motorcycle had no such option. Counting down to number 13, Ducati 1299. Panigale 2015 to 2018. The 1299 Panigale is significant for a reason that has nothing to do with lap times. It is the end of a lineage. The frameless monocoque chassis is the part pointer. The engine itself is the structural backbone of the motorcycle. While the legendary 619 used a steel trellis frame, it laid the racing philosophy that ultimately pointed here. The reason it died is pure physics. To keep pace with Japanese inline fours, Ducati had been boring out the L-twin cylinders for years. By the 1299, the bore was so wide that going further would cause catastrophic internal stress. The pistons would have been wider than they were tall. Ducati did not choose to leave the twin behind. Physics chose for them. There's a certain poetry to that. The only manufacturer who could have kept the V-twin competitive in superbike racing was told by the laws of geometry that the experiment was over. The Panigale 5.4 is a better racing tool. Nobody argues that. But the L-twin soul died with the 1299. Hunt one down for $14,000 to $18,000. It is the right call in hindsight. But the last true Ducati V-twin superbike deserved a more deliberate farewell. Ducati was pushed out by geometry. Number 12 was pushed out by a market that did not yet understand what it was being offered. Subscribe right now if this countdown is making you furious at motorcycle manufacturers in a productive way. Every week we go deeper into the decisions the industry makes behind closed doors. Do not miss a single video. Sliding in at number 12, BMW 𝐻P2 Enduro 2005 to 2008. In 2005, BMW looked at the extreme off-road adventure market, barely existing yet, and decided to build the most powerful dirt bike anyone had ever attempted to sell to the general public. The AIR damping rear shock system is the part pointer. No conventional coil spring, just compressed air managing massive off-road impacts borrowed from motorsport and costing more to manufacture than several entire competing motorcycles. 1,170 cubic centimeters boxer twin, 105 horsepower, stripped down dirt bike chassis. BMW really went for it. The problem was timing and price. $16,000 in 2005 for a dirt bike was a market that did not yet exist at scale. The BMW faithful wanted capable and comfortable. The serious off-road crowd wanted light and nimble. The 𝐻P2 satisfied neither group and was priced beyond almost everyone else. It now fetches $16,000 to $22,000 plus and has appreciated considerably. BMW was right about where the market was heading and wrong about when. The extreme ADV category the 𝐻P2 pointed at is now one of the fastest growing segments in the industry. The KTM 890 Adventure R, the Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro, the Husqvarna Norden 901. All of them owe a philosophical debt to a machine BMW killed in 2008. A decade too early is still too early. BMW was ahead of the market. But up next was a bike that was perfectly on time. And then the rulebook changed overnight. Revving up to number 11, Kawasaki Ninja 7R 1996 to 2003. The ZX-7R had one job: win in the 750 cubic centimeters inline 4 class in World Superbike Championship, which was for a period the premier category for production-based superbikes. The twin ram air intake tubes on the front fairing are the part pointer, giving the bike its menacing bug-eyed stare and feeding the 748 cubic centimeters inline 4 pressurized air at speed. On the day it was designed, it was exactly the right weapon for the fight. Then World Superbike changed the rules to favor 1,000 cubic centimeters machines. The 750 class became irrelevant overnight. The ZX-7R had no race series to win and no relevance to drive showroom traffic. Worse, at over 440 pounds dry, it was too heavy to be competitive even in the categories where 750 still ran. You can snag one for $4,000 to $7,000. The machine was structurally obsolete the moment the rulebook changed. Kawasaki spent that money on the ZX-10R instead. That was the correct call. Killed by a rule change. Number 10 was killed by the customers who refused to be its customers no matter what Honda did. Landing at the Honda Valkyrie 1996 to 2003 and 2014 to 2015. Honda's plan was a good one. Take the Goldwing, strip every piece of bodywork off it, expose that magnificent flat 6 engine, and sell it as a muscle cruiser. The exposed flat 6 engine block is the part pointer. It looked like something ripped from a small aircraft and bolted between two wheels. 1,520 cubic centimeters originally, 1,832 cubic centimeters in the later version. Turbine smooth, relentlessly powerful, unlike anything else on the road. The core cruiser market found it too weird. Smooth where they wanted rough, refined where they wanted raw, and it did not sound like a Harley. The touring market saw no wind protection and bought another Goldwing. Honda built a spectacular machine for an audience that had not yet learned it existed. They come up for $4,500 to $8,000. Given the sales figures, the call was right, but the flat 6 cruiser market Honda created and then walked away from has never been filled by anyone. That gap still exists. The Valkyrie was too strange for its moment. Our next bike was not strange at all, just the right bike with the wrong brand on the tank. Arriving at number 9, Yamaha X T1200Z Super Tenere, 2010 to 2020. Yamaha aimed the Super Tenere squarely at the BMW R1200GS and learned an expensive lesson about what makes people actually buy premium adventure bikes. The bulletproof shaft drive is the part pointer, virtually maintenance-free, the kind of feature serious long-distance riders treat as non-negotiable. 1,199 cubic centimeters parallel twin, shaft drive, electronic suspension, heated grips, fully equipped rival to the GS at a notably lower price. Buyers who wanted a large premium adventure bike bought the BMW anyway, not because the Yamaha was technically worse, in some respects it was better, but because the R1200 GS had accumulated 20 years of aspirational identity. The GS was a lifestyle statement. The Super Tenere was a well-spec'd alternative. In the premium market, that is a losing position almost every time. Yamaha chose not to fund a Euro 5 update for a brand battle they could not win and redirected toward the Tenere 700 instead, which promptly dominated the middleweight adventure segment. At $6,500 to $10,000 on the used market, the Super Tenere represents tremendous value for anyone who actually rides long distances and prioritizes reliability over brand perception. They made the right strategic call, even if the machine itself deserved better. Hit that like button right now. We are in the top 8, and every machine from here is a legitimate legend. One tap pushes this toward every rider who needs to understand why these machines disappeared. Yamaha read the market correctly. Number 8 was not killed by a rival, it was killed by its own category. Cruising into the Honda VFR 800 Interceptor, 1998 to 2021. For 2 decades, the VFR 800 was the answer to one question. What do you buy if you want a motorcycle that does everything well and nothing poorly? Sport bike handling, touring comfort, V4 character. The single-sided swing arm is the part pointer. It made rear wheel changes effortless and looked quite good doing it. Premium engineering on a machine priced for people who actually ride. 782 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled V4. The sport touring market stopped existing. Comfort buyers moved to adventure bikes. Handling buyers moved to nakeds. The sensible middle option found itself with a shrinking audience and engine architecture that dated to 2001. Updating it for Euro 5 while the market contracted was not a case Honda could make internally. The bike was good. The category was finished. Now available for $4,500 to $7,000. One of the most capable all-rounders on the used market, with a V4 character that no inline twin sport tourer can replicate. Abandoned not because it failed, but because the slot it occupied stopped attracting buyers. If you want a machine that does everything well, this is it. The VFR died because its market evaporated. This next bike was killed by something more personal. The drama at number 7, Harley-Davidson V-Rod VRSC, 2001 to 2017. Harley-Davidson hired Porsche. Take a moment with that. The company, built entirely on traditional American air-cooled V-twin, as contracted one of the most prestigious European automotive engineering firms in the world to design them a new engine. The Revolution engine, 1,131 cubic centimeters initially, later 1,250 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled V-twin, was a technological marvel. The hydroform perimeter frame is the part pointer, giving the V-Rod a futuristic drag bike stance that looked like nothing else anywhere. Faster, more reliable, more advanced. Built by Porsche. The core Harley faithful rejected it immediately. No liquid cooling, no Porsche engine, no motorcycle that sounded different from every other Harley. They mocked it despite it being faster, more reliable, and more sophisticated than anything else in the lineup. Sales declined consistently. When Euro 4 demanded another expensive update for an engine the demographic had already rejected, Harley cut it. At $6,500 to $11,000 on the used market, the performance per dollar is exceptional. Right call for the brand's survival. But the V-Rod was a road not taken. A Harley that could actually compete on performance, and that road is permanently closed. The V-Rod showed what Harley could be when freed from its own mythology. Their customers would not allow it. One other motorcycle was killed by a spreadsheet, pure and simple, by executives who had never ridden one. Revving up to number 6, Yamaha YZF R6, 1999 to 2020. The R6 was the undisputed king of the track for 2 decades. The 16,000 RPM tachometer is the part pointer. Watching that needle reach redline was a physical experience no modern motorcycle fully recreates. 599 cubic centimeters inline 4. A machine that made professional riders feel like they were working at the absolute limit and made amateur riders feel like they very much were. Demanding, uncompromising, magnificent. Euro 5 killed it, re-engineering the R6 to run cleaner while keeping the high-revving character that defined it was potentially impossible without fundamentally changing what the engine was. Street sales had also been in serious decline for years. Funding a major update for a machine fewer and fewer people were actually buying did not compute. Now going for $8,000 to $13,000 and climbing, because people know what it was. The analog high-revving 600 Supersport is a dead category. Every other manufacturer killed theirs first. Yamaha was just the last one standing, and when they went, the class went with them. The R6 was the last real example of it. Regulatory casualty. Number 5 is a corporate one, a painful story about what happens when accountants are put in charge of decisions that engineers and riders should be making. Heartbreak at Buell X B12. Our Firebolt, 2004 to 2010. Eric Buell built weird motorcycles, and weird in the best possible way. The hollow aluminum frame is the part pointer, a chassis that doubled as the 3.8-gallon fuel tank. The frame was the fuel tank, an entire component eliminated by making the structure do double duty. 1002, 103 cubic centimeters, air-cooled V-twin, mass centralized, brilliantly handling, entirely American. What killed it was not a market failure or an engineering limitation. It was a corporate decision made on October 15, 2009, when Harley-Davidson announced the immediate closure of Buell Motorcycle Company. Eric Buell was told the same day, no wind down, no final edition, no ceremony. One morning the company existed. By the end of October it did not. The financial crisis gave Harley's executives the excuse they needed to stop funding a division that did not fit the core brand. Grab one for $3,500 to $6,500, a unique piece of American motorcycle history for real-world money. Harley killed the most innovative engineering operation in their portfolio to protect a quarterly earnings report. That asymmetry is the entire tragedy in one sentence. Subscribe right now. We are counting down to the top 4, and the machines at the head of this list are the ones that will make you angriest at the decisions that were made. Do not miss the final countdown. Buell was killed by a boardroom. The bike up next was not. It was killed by its own market category collapsing around it. Stinging at number 4, Triumph Daytona 675, 2006 to 2017. The Daytona 675 had something most modern motorcycles are engineered to avoid because it cannot be captured in a spec sheet: character. The underseat exhaust system is the part pointer, a perfectly symmetrical, razor-sharp tail section unlike anything else on a showroom floor. The visual expression of a machine designed with a specific personality. 675 cubic centimeters, inline triple. At 10,000 revolutions per minute, that engine produced a mid-range howl that riders remember for years after they sell the bike. Some never sell it. The middleweight super sport market was collapsing around it, not because of anything the Daytona did wrong, but because buyers were leaving the category entirely. Naked bikes for city riding, adventure bikes for touring. Euro 4 added cost at the worst possible moment. Triumph concluded that supplying Moto2 race engines was more profitable than building street Daytonas for a market that was already leaving. On the used market, they run $5,500 to $8,500 and rising. The best handling, most character-rich machine in its class discontinued, not because it was bad, but because the category around it failed. The Daytona died with the category. If the class had survived, it would still be the benchmark. One other bike died for a more cynical reason. Closing in at number 3, Honda RVT 1000R RC51, 2002-2006. Honda built the RC51 for one reason. Ducati was winning World Superbike with their V-Twin S, and Honda had decided that was enough. They poured unlimited engineering resources into a motorcycle whose sole purpose was to beat Ducati at their own game. The front mount radiators are the part pointer, placed sideways to keep the aerodynamic profile as slim as possible for the straights, a decision that prioritized outright performance over everything. 999 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled 90-degree V-twin. Colin Edwards, 2 World Superbike Championships, mission accomplished. The moment the rules changed to favor 1,000 cubic centimeters in inline 4s, Honda had no further use for it. The contract was complete. They redirected everything to the CBR's 1000RR and let the RC51 disappear quietly. Not killed by poor sales, not by emissions. Killed because it had done exactly what it was built to do. They go for $8,000 to $14,000 now. Highly collectible and rewarding to ride. Right call for Honda's racing strategy. For anyone who loved riding the RC51, an absolute crime. The RC51 was discarded after winning. Number 2, was retired without the respect it deserved. So close at our next bike, Yamaha VMAX, 1985 to 2020. The VMAX was not a sensible motorcycle in any respect. That was the entire point. The massive aluminum air scoops flanking the tank are the part pointer. They screamed muscle car energy in a way nothing in the Japanese lineup before or since has matched. 1,679 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled V4. Almost 200 horsepower in the second generation. It ignored practical handling. It ignored cornering clearance. It ignored fuel economy. It was a tire-shredding straight-line weapon with no apology for any of it. 35 years through 5 emissions standards, Euro 5 finally arrived with requirements that would have demanded a fundamental rebuild of that massive V4. Re-engineering it while keeping the character that made it the VMAX would have cost millions for a niche audience. The accountants won, now sitting at $10,000 to $14,000 on the used market, worth every cent. 35 years of refusing to die deserved a proper numbered final edition with ceremony. Instead, Yamaha let it quietly bleed out. A machine that stubborn deserved better. The VMAX died without fanfare when it deserved a parade. Number 1 is the most deliberate death on this list, and saving the absolute best for last, KTM 1190 RC8, 2008 to 2015. Every other entry on this list was killed by something external. Regulations, sales figures, rulebook changes, corporate panic. Number 1 was killed by KTM's own CEO going on record in 2015 and stating publicly that superbikes pushing 200 horsepower had no business being ridden on public roads. 𝐷𝐕𝐿 did not just discontinue the RC8, he discontinued KTM's entire street-legal superbike program. Not a product decision, not a financial calculation, a philosophical statement. The razor-sharp origami fairings are the part-pointer, angular bodywork that made the RC8 look like a stealth fighter. A visual declaration that this machine had no interest in being approachable. 1,195 cubic centimeters, 75-degree V-twin. Raw, ferocious, demanding in the way serious superbikes are demanding, it expected you to know what you were doing. You are looking at $9,000 to $13,000. Find one that has not been destroyed on a track and buy it immediately. Riders want demanding. Riders have always wanted demanding. A machine being challenging and unforgiving is not a reason to kill it. It is frequently the entire reason people line up to buy it. KTM left a gap. Their own fans are still asking them to fill a decade later. The RC8 was not killed because it failed. It was killed because its creator blinked. That gap in the KTM lineup is still there. Their fans have not stopped asking. Continue the ride and click on the next video. Never overpay for your bike again and get yourself the buyer's guide and save hundreds or even thousands of dollars on your next motorcycle.